The stallion was relieving himself in the middle of my family room just as my boy rang me for the third occasion that day. From my luxurious room at the Four Seasons Hotel in Denver, I observed via my mobile display, enjoying a glass of bubbly as Scout, my most unpredictable horse, swatted Sabrina's pricey designer bags with his swishing tail. The moment couldn't have been more ideal, almost heavenly in its precision. But I'm jumping too far forward. Allow me to go back to the start of this splendid mess. Just 3 days earlier, I was embracing the life I'd always wanted. At 67, following 43 years wed to Adam and 4 decades as a top accountant at a firm in Chicago, I'd at last discovered my serenity. Adam had passed 2 years before. The disease claimed him gradually at first, then suddenly, and along with him vanished my final excuse to endure the urban clamor, the constant pressures, the overwhelming obligations. My property in Montana stretched over 80 acres of nature's masterpiece. Peaks tinted the skyline in shades of violet during dusk. Each dawn, I savored robust brew on the encircling veranda, gazing as fog ascended from the lowland, while my trio of equines, Scout, Bella, and Thunder, munched grass in the field. The quietness wasn't hollow, it brimmed with significance. Melodies from birds, breezes rustling evergreens, the far-off mooing of livestock from adjacent spreads. This was the vision Adam and I had cherished, scrimped for, mapped out. Upon retiring, Gail, he'd declare, laying out property ads on our dining surface. We'll keep steeds and poultry without a single worry. He didn't reach that stage, but I achieved it on behalf of us both. The ring that disrupted my tranquility arrived on a Tuesday dawn. I was clearing Bella's enclosure, softly singing a classic tune from a renowned band when my device vibrated. Scott's image flashed up, the polished portrait he employed for his property dealings in the city. All contrived grin and costly dental work. "Hello, dear," I responded, leaning the gadget against a stack of fodder. "Mom, fantastic update." He skipped inquiring about my well-being. Sabrina and I planned to drop by the spread. My gut clenched, yet I maintained a steady tone. "Oh, what dates did you have in mind?" "This coming weekend." And here's the kicker, Sabrina's relatives are eager to check out your spot. Her siblings, their spouses, her kin from Florida. 10 in all. You have plenty of unused sleeping quarters, don't you? The tool dropped from my grasp. 10 individuals. Scott, I'm not sure his pitch turned to that patronizing style he'd honed after earning his initial fortune. You're wandering that vast space by yourself. It's unhealthy. Plus, we're kin. That's the purpose of the place, isn't it? For relatives to assemble. Dad would have approved. The coercion was seamless, well-rehearsed. How bold to summon Adam's spirit for this intrusion. The spare areas aren't prepared for, then prepare them. Goodness. Mom, what else occupies your time there? Tending birds? Seriously. We'll arrive Friday night. Sabrina shared it on her social feed already. Her audience is thrilled to witness genuine rural existence. He chuckled as if he'd uttered a witty remark. If it's too much for you, perhaps consider relocating to the urban area. A lady of your years isolated on a farm, it's not truly feasible, is it? Prior to my reply, he delivered the final strike. If it doesn't suit you, simply gather your things and return to the city. We'll manage the property on your behalf. He disconnected without allowing me a word. I remained in the stable, device clutched, as the gravity of his statements enveloped me like a funeral cloth. Manage the property for me. The audacity, the presumption, the effortless harshness. At that instant, thunder neighed from his pen, snapping me from my daze. I gazed at him, all 15 hands of sleek ebony defiance, and an idea sparked in my thoughts. A grin emerged on my lips, likely the first sincere one since Scott's contact. "You know, Thunder?" I murmured, unlocking his gate. "I believe you're correct. They crave true farm living. Let's deliver true farm living." That afternoon, I spent time in Adam's former office, placing contacts. First to Tom and Miguel, my farm assistants residing in the small house near the stream. They'd managed the grounds for 15 years, included when I acquired it, and they grasped precisely the sort of person my offspring had evolved into. Mrs. Morrison, Tom remarked upon hearing my scheme, his rugged features splitting into a smile. It'd be our utmost delight. Next, I reached out to Ruth, my closest companion from university days, who resided in Denver. "Grab your suitcase, darling," she responded without hesitation. "The Four Seasons features a spa deal this week. We'll observe the entire spectacle from there." The following pair of days were all by in delightful setup. I stripped the superior linens from the visitor quarters, substituting them with rough wool covers from the stable's backup stock. The fine cloths went into hiding. I sourced some wonderfully coarse ones from a local outdoor gear shop. The temperature regulator for the guest section, I adjusted it to a comfortable 58 degrees overnight, 79 in daylight. System malfunctions, I'd assert. Vintage farmhouses, you understand. But the crowning achievement demanded precise coordination. Thursday evening, during the installation of the final concealed recorders, remarkable what overnight shipping can provide, I positioned myself in the main area and envisioned the setup. The pale rugs I'd invested heavily in, the refurbished antique pieces, the large panes framing the peaks. "This will be flawless," I breathed to Adam's picture on the shelf. "You always claim Scott required a lesson in repercussions. View this as his advanced education." Prior to departing for Denver on Friday dawn, Tom and Miguel aided with the concluding details. We guided Scout, Bella, and Thunder indoors. They complied unexpectedly well, likely detecting the prank afoot. A container of grains in the cooking space, some straw strewn in the lounge, and instinct would handle the remainder. We installed self-filling hydration units to maintain their moisture. The balance, well, equines behave as equines do. The internet hub entered the lockbox. My elegant endless pool gazing over the dale acquired a fresh habitat of slime and marsh muck I'd nurtured in containers throughout the week. The neighborhood animal supply eagerly contributed several dozen young amphibians and some noisy amphibians. As I motored away from my estate at daybreak, my device displaying the recording streams, I felt more buoyant than in ages. In my wake, Scout examined the sofa. Before me awaited Denver, Ruth, and prime viewing of the performance of an era. Genuine rural existence, without doubt. The finest aspect, this was merely the commencement. Scott believed he could bully me into forsaking my aspiration, coerce me into yielding my haven. He overlooked a vital fact. I hadn't endured 4 decades in business finance, reared him largely solo while Adam journeyed, and constructed this existence from nothing by lacking strength. Prior to proceeding, sign up and share in the remarks your location while tuning in. I adored discovering the reach of these tales. My beloved offspring was on the verge of grasping what his dad perpetually endeavored to instill, yet he never absorbed. Never undervalue a lady with 0 remaining to forfeit and an estate brimming with opportunities. Ruth uncorked the sparkling wine precisely as Scott's luxury sedan entered my driveway. We lounged in the opulent accommodation in Denver, screens open to various recording views, hotel deliveries arrayed around us, as if orchestrating a delectable strategic mission, which essentially we were. "Observe Sabrina's footwear," Ruth exclaimed, indicating the display. "Are those high-end red-soled ones?" I verified, viewing my son's spouse wobble over the pebbles and towering spikes. $800 poised to encounter real Montana dirt. The procession trailing Scott's vehicle exceeded my expectations. 2 leased off-roaders and a premium saloon. All spotless metropolitan transports on the brink of their direst ordeal. Via the lenses, I tallied the arrivals. Sabrina's siblings, Madison and Ashley. Their partners, Brett and Connor. Sabrina's relatives from Florida, Maria and Sophia, plus their companions whose identities I'd never committed to memory. And Sabrina's mom, Patricia, who alighted from the saloon clad in what seemed like ivory fabric trousers. Ivory fabric trousers on a farm. "Gail, you're a total mastermind," Ruth murmured, grasping my limb as we beheld them near the entrance. Scott groped for the extra opener I'd described, the one beneath the pottery amphibian Adam crafted during his ceramics session. For an instant, I experienced a twinge of an emotion. Sentimentality? Remorse? But then Sabrina's words reached me through the exterior lens audio. "Lord, it reeks like manure here. How does your mom endure it?" The twinge evaporated. Scott thrust the portal wide, and the enchantment commenced. The yell from Sabrina might have fractured glass across multiple regions. Scout had stationed himself ideally in the foyer, tail waving grandly, while leaving a recent mound of waste on my ornate hallway carpet. Yet it was Bella poised in the lounge as if she commanded it, leisurely gnawing on Sabrina's luxury neckwear that had tumbled from her baggage, which truly captured the moment. What in the world? Scott's composed facade dissolved at once. Thunder selected that juncture to stroll from the culinary zone, toppling the pottery container Adam created for our 40th milestone. It fragmented on the timber flooring, and I astonished myself by remaining unmoved. Objects were merely objects. This was invaluable. Perhaps they're intended to be inside, Madison proposed faintly, flattening against the barrier as Thunder probed her upscale purse with his enormous snout. Equines don't reside indoors, Patricia screeched, her pale trousers already bearing dubious dark marks from grazing the surface where Scout had scratched himself earlier that day. Scott retrieved his device, urgently dialing me. I permitted it to chime thrice before picking up, rendering my tone airy and relaxed. Hi, dear. Did you arrive without issue? Mom, horses are in your residence. What? I feigned shock, pressing my torso though unseen. Ruth muffled her amusement. That's absurd. They must have escaped the enclosure. Oh no. Tom and Miguel are seeing relatives in Billings this weekend. You'll need to guide them outdoors on your own. How, Mom? They're ruining it all. Simply direct them, darling. Leads and tethers are in the outbuilding. They're mild as kittens. I'm terribly sorry. I'm in Denver for a health checkup. My joint pain, you recall. I'll return Sunday night. Sunday? Mom, that's not the physician's summoning me. Love you. I ended the call and powered off the device entirely. Ruth and I toasted as we witnessed the disorder erupt on the monitor. The subsequent 3 hours surpassed any scripted entertainment program. Brett, attempting heroism, sought to seize Scout's hair to escort him. Scout, insulted by the boldness, abruptly expelled mucus across Brett's high-fashion top. Connor endeavored to usher Bella using a sweeper, but she viewed it as play and pursued him circling the low table until he clambered onto the seating, yelping like an infant. But the highlight of the period occurred when Maria's partner, I believe Dylan, uncovered the swimming area. At minimum we can bathe, he declared, stripping his garment en route to the terrace entrances. Ruth and I inclined forward expectantly. The cry upon beholding the verdant, amphibian-plagued bog that once was my immaculate endless pool was so shrill that Thunder indoors whinnied back. The imported croakers were vocalizing fully, composing a melody to evoke emotion from a composer. The odor, I pictured, was extraordinary. This is madness. Sophia lamented, seeking a signal in the lounge while evading equine waste. No wireless, no mobile connection. How can we? There's equine waste on my luxury item. In the meantime, Sabrina had sealed herself in the lower lavatory, weeping theatrically as Scott hammered the panel, imploring her to emerge and assist. Patricia was using her own gadget, circling the entry path, evidently attempting to reserve accommodations. Best of luck, I muttered, aware the closest suitable lodging was 2 hours distant and a competition event occupied the area this weekend. All spots would be reserved. As daylight waned, casting amber glow over my screens, the group had succeeded in corralling the horses to the rear platform, but struggled to maneuver them down the stairs to the grazing area. The clever beasts had located the exterior seating pads and were joyfully dismantling them. Madison and Ashley had fortified themselves in a visitor chamber, but I anticipated the next phase. The climate control activated, lowering the warmth to its set 58 degrees. Indeed, shortly after, they appeared swathed in the abrasive wool wraps, grumbling about the chill. No additional covers anywhere, Ashley whimpered. And these reek like damp canine. That was accurate. They originated from the regional shelter's contribution pile. I'd cleansed them somewhat. By 9 o'clock, they'd abandoned supper plans. The horses had re-entered the culinary space somehow. Tom had fitted a deceptive fastener on the rear entry that appeared secured, but wasn't, and devoured the majority of their provisions. Sabrina's picture-perfect snack platter became Scout's meal, and the natural produce from a premium grocer lay dispersed on the tiles like festive bits. Scott located the crisis reserves in the storage: preserved legumes, quick porridge, and dehydrated dairy. The identical items I'd subsisted on for 7 days upon initial relocation when a blizzard isolated us. But for this assembly, it equated to institutional fare. "I can't fathom your mom existing this way," Patricia voiced loudly enough for the culinary lens to capture. No surprise Adam passed. He likely sought escape from this nightmare. I sensed Ruth's palm compress mine. She comprehended how deeply Adam adored this vision, how he doodled estate designs on tissues amid treatments, extracting my vow to pursue our ambition even absent him. That which, Ruth grumbled. Should I contact her dining spot and revoke her bookings for the coming month? I have connections. I chuckled. Genuinely chuckled for the initial instance in days. No, kind companion. The horses are managing splendidly. As though prompted, thunder materialized in the culinary view's backdrop, rear elevated, placing his view of Patricia right behind her pale custom footwear. When she retreated, the squash was detectable even via the device audio. The yells recommenced. By 12, they'd withdrawn to their designated sleeping areas. The visitor section lenses displayed them clustered beneath insufficient coverings, clothed still since their cases were either equine compaged or remained in the transports, fearful to venture out where the horses could lurk. The automated foul alert I'd placed in the upper level was timed for 4:30 am. The amplifiers were robust, designed for drills. Tom's sibling procured them from a military excess outlet. "Shall we request additional bubbly?" Ruth inquired, extending for the hotel menu. "Definitely," I replied, observing Scott traverse his chamber, motioning emphatically during a hushed dispute with Sabrina. "And perhaps those berry-dip sweets. We'll require energy for the next day's display." Via the lenses, I noticed Scott extract his portable computer, likely seeking lodgings or methods to summon creature extraction. But absent connectivity, that costly device served as an ornate weight. I grinned, recalling the message I'd concealed beneath the brew machine they'd eventually locate come dawn. Greetings to true farm existence. Recall, rest early, awaken early. Foul calls at 4:30. Nourishing at 5 am, savor your visit, Mom. The following day they'd encounter the duty list I'd assembled, encompassing clearing pens, gathering produce from my highly defensive birds, and mending the barrier I'd deliberately compromised adjacent to the swine enclosure at the adjacent property. Their rounded-bellied swine were masters of evasion who adored exploring fresh ground. But this evening, I'd slumber in extravagance while my offspring absorbed what his dad always recognized. Esteem isn't passed down, it's acquired. And occasionally the finest instructors possess 4 limbs and 0 tolerance for nonsense. The foul audio blasted at 4:30 am with the intensity of myriad dawns. From my portable screen at the hotel, I beheld Scott leap erect in bed, ensnared in the abrasive wool cover, his locks defying gravity. The noise was splendid. Not a solitary bird, but a blended orchestra of crows I'd compiled, boosted to performance volumes. What on earth? Sabrina screeched from beneath her cushion. Ruth had remained overnight in my lodging, and we were midway through our second brew pot, fresh produce and baked goods positioned between us as if viewing a major game. "Is that the true loudness?" Ruth questioned, grimacing as Patricia's yell merged with the ensemble from the adjacent space. "Oh no," I responded gently, fine-tuning my spectacles. I amplified it slightly. "You know, my auditory sense isn't as sharp. I require volume to rouse. The system's elegance lay in its endurance." Whenever it seemed concluded, another crow sounded. I'd configured it for precisely 37 minutes at irregular gaps, sufficient to prevent resleeping. By 5 am, the weary cluster had shuffled into the culinary area, resembling undead film extras. Ashley's artificial strands were knotted irreparably. Brett bore dried equine waste on his upscale denim. Maria's companion, Derek or David, had surrendered and donned an abrasive cover as a mantle. Scott uncovered my message beneath the brew device. His expression while perusing was an artwork of mounting dread. Nourishing period, Connor recited over his arm. What nourishing? That's when external noises reached them. My self-feeders had malfunctioned. I deactivated them from afar, resulting in 30 birds, 6 swine from the neighboring estate, who'd inexplicably navigated the compromised barrier overnight, and my 3 equines all assembling near the dwelling, voicing dissatisfaction. The birds were most vocal. I'd chosen the fiercest traditional varieties, including a male named Diablo, victor of 3 local contests for most irritable poultry. We're not agriculturalists, Madison sobbed. Yesterday's I make up trailing her features. This is lunacy. Simply disregard them, Sabrina ordered, striving to assert control. We'll head to the settlement for morning meal. Scott's navigation app notified them the hamlet was 43 minutes distant. One direction. The closest coffee chain, 2 hours. I located Quick Brew, Sophia proclaimed, displaying the container of caffeine-free I'd positioned visibly. They wouldn't locate the authentic brew I'd concealed behind decade-old preserved fruits until later, perhaps never. As they wrestled with the vintage stovetop brewer I'd exchanged for my modern unit, the creatures amplified. Thunder had learned to strike the gate with his skull, generating a steady thud resonating through the dale. The swine had relocated to the terrace furnishings and were zealously reconfiguring the al fresco arrangement. But Diablo had realized he could leap sufficiently to perch on the culinary ledge. The direct confrontation between Sabrina and Diablo via the pane was dramatic. She yelled. He responded in kind. She hurled the caffeine-free at the glass. He tapped the surface with heightened zeal. We must nourish them to silence them, Scott conceded at last, appearing vanquished already. And dawn hadn't fully broken. I'm not approaching those beasts, Patricia declared, positioning herself regally in a culinary seat that promptly teetered. I'd slackened a leg minimally to irritate, not in danger. Mom's accurate, Sabrina affirmed. You're the male, Scott. You and the fellows manage it. I observed Scott's mandible tighten. His dad would have been outdoors already, creature sustained, likely astride Thunder Sand's saddle across the meadow. Adam originated on an Iowa farm, a fact Scott perpetually concealed, opting to claim his dad dealt in farming innovation. The males advanced outdoors as if entering combat. Through the external lenses, I saw Brett promptly tread in a recent equine deposit. Scout was prolific indeed. Connor attempted the feed container, but recoiled yelling when 3 rodents dashed out. They'd settled after I'd ceased proper storage days prior. But the peak instant arrived when Derek or David neared the poultry shelter with the nourishment pail. Diablo, guardian of his domain, propelled toward the unfortunate lad with avian fury. The pail soared. Nourishment scattered. Abruptly, pandemonium. Birds flocking, swine rushing from the terrace, equines ambling to examine. Scott strove for command, bellowing directives as in his urban conference room. But livestock ignore executive tactics. Thunder especially appeared offended by Scott's manner and conveyed discontent by shoving him into the hydration basin. Indoors, the females fared poorly. The culinary basin had sprung an enigmatic drip, a slack seal, thanks to Tom. The cooker heated sluggishly. I'd modified the fuel stream, and each compartment opened revealed surprises: rodent catchers, synthetic reptiles for deterring actual ones, or my assortment of animal health items, featuring oversized injectors for equine immunizations. Something's amiss with the produce, Ashley shrieked, displaying a turquoise one. They're flawed. I chuckled so intensely Ruth paused the footage. My specialty hens produced lovely azure and emerald items, but urbanites always assumed defects. By 7 a.m., they'd assembled what could kindly be termed morning meal. Charred quick porridge, turquoise produce that Sophia declined, and quick caffeine-free tasting of dashed hopes. The dairy was powdered since the fresh in the cooler had inexplicably soured. I'd tweaked the cooling unit's setting pre-departure. I require cleansing, Sabrina stated. An extended warm cleanse. Oh, innocent dear. The visitor washroom spray offered 2 modes, icy torrent or scalding blaze. The force could erode coating or scarcely trickle, no moderation. I'd also swapped the plush cloths for those outdoor varieties that repelled moisture like coated paper. Sabrina's cries upon meeting the chill were audible even from the culinary area. Then the heat surged, elevating her cries. Madison tested another visitor washroom and found the outlet sluggish. Strands from equine tails that Tom had meticulously inserted, causing overflow. Meanwhile, Scott sought connectivity for what he deemed critical professional tasks. He'd located the hub, connected it, but couldn't fathom the failure. He missed that I'd altered the code to a 47-symbol random sequence and stashed the note inside the outbuilding, specifically amid the fodder stacks in the upper level. Perhaps connectivity in the settlement, Connor proposed optimistically. I'm not traveling 40 minutes for access, Scott retorted. Tension mounted. Excellent. That's when they uncovered my scheme's next element, the duty panel in the entry space, labeled everyday farm duties in Adam's script I'd meticulously replicated. It was sealed and formal, as if long-standing. Clear pens, 8 a.m. gather produce, 8:30 a.m. use safeguards. Inspect boundaries, 9 a.m. relocate watering lines, 10 a.m. nourish birds again, 11 a.m. They're under specific regimen. Purify basin strainers, midday. Purify the basin. Brett brightened. Perhaps it's less awful than yesterday's view. Innocent, hopeful Brett. The basin under daylight was worse. The slime had proliferated into a lush mat. The croakers had welcomed companions. An object resembling a modest reptile, likely merely a sizable branch, drifted forebodingly in the far section. The scent could strip surfaces. We're skipping this, Patricia proclaimed. This isn't our purpose here. Then what was your purpose, Patricia? I addressed the display unheard. For a complimentary getaway? For photo ops? To evaluate my grounds? To assess your daughter's marital gains? Ruth refilled bubbly. We'd transitioned from brew as we observed their debate. Sabrina desired immediate departure. Scott maintained they couldn't abandon the creatures hungry. The Florida kin were packing. Brett was querying diseases from equine waste on his device via minimal signal obtained by balancing precariously near the poultry shelter. Then arrived the instant I'd anticipated. Scott, aggravated and hopeless, entered my sleeping chamber seeking aids, an alternate access code, details for Tom and Miguel, anything. He discovered the packet on my dresser, scripted to him in my hand. Within, a lone page with a single section. Scott, upon reading this, you'll have sampled roughly 1% of actual estate management. Your dad performed this daily during his final 2 years, even amid treatments, due to passion. This wasn't solely my vision, it was shared. If you can't honor that, if you can't honor me, you don't fit here. The equines sense it, the birds sense it, even the pool croakers sense it. Do you? Beneath was an image Adam captured a month pre-passing. He perched on Thunder, donning his worn western cap, beaming as if jackpot winner. In the rear, faintly, me clearing pens and galoshes and his aged checkered garment, chuckling at his quip. We'd been utterly content there, wholly fulfilled. Via the lens, I beheld my offspring slump onto my mattress, message and grip, his features traversing sentiments unseen since Adam's service. Embarrassment, awareness, perhaps comprehension. But Sabrina's tone pierced the instant. Scott, the commode's malfunctioning. It won't cease running. The enchantment dissolved. He creased the message, pocketed it, and proceeded to address the oddly continuous commode. A basic valve tweak taking moments if knowledgeable, hours otherwise. We requested midday meal at the hotel. I selected fish. Ruth chose beef. My device indicated 17 unanswered rings from Scott, 23 from Sabrina, and a message from Patricia stating solely, "This constitutes senior mistreatment." I chortled so vigorously the attendant inquired our status. Daylight waned on their initial complete day at the estate. Through the lenses, I saw them congregated in the lounge, weary, soiled, and subdued. They'd nourished the creatures inadequately, retrieved some produce, misplacing 3 to Diablo's wrath, and Brett had plunged into the basin attempting slime removal. They consumed preserved legumes and old biscuits for evening meal since none desired the drive to settlement, and the equines had reinvaded the culinary area during their absence, consuming all edibles. One additional day, I informed Ruth, elevating my vessel. One additional day, and they'll shatter utterly. "You're wicked," she remarked approvingly. "Utterly wicked." "No," I amended, recalling Adam, our constructed existence, the aspirations Scott aimed to seize. "I'm merely a landowner safeguarding her territory." Saturday dawn emerged with what I'd term scriptural exactness. At 3:47 a.m., the neighboring swine found the barrier gap had inexplicably enlarged overnight, courtesy of Tom's nocturnal efforts pre-family trip. All 6 swine, headed by a colossal female named Bertha, ventured onto my grounds and located the supreme prize, Sabrina's premium vehicle, panes slightly open for air. The alarm at 4 a.m. was magnificent. Through the lenses, I watched Scott stagger outdoors in undergarments and those absurd metropolitan foot covers, attempting to expel 3 swine from the rear seating. Bertha had settled comfortably in the operator's position and was avidly consuming what appeared as Sabrina's costly leather bag. "This isn't possible," he reiterated, a chant against turmoil. But indeed it was. The foul sound joined at 4:30, punctual. This occasion, I'd incorporated avian shrieks. The unholy noise prompted Connor to tumble from bed, dragging the abrasive cover and a light fixture. By 5 a.m., as all assembled in the culinary space, they resembled catastrophe survivors. Patricia's pale outfit had been discarded for what seemed her spouse's outdated sport attire from the upper storage. Madison fashioned a equine cover as attire. Derek or David had relinquished and remained bare-chested despite the chill. "We're departing," Sabrina declared. Immediately. "The vehicle," Scott began. "Ignore the vehicle. Summon a lease service." That's when they learned the nearest lease agency was at the airfield, 2 hours distant, and fully reserved due to the event. The local transport firm, 1 vehicle, and the operator was with kin elsewhere. "We might request a ride share," Ashley offered expectantly. The stares directed her could-have soured dairy. Ride share in remote Montana from an estate 43 minutes from settlement without signal to reserve. "I located brew," Brett proclaimed victoriously, displaying the container of genuine brew I'd concealed. It was the initial authentic grin from any. They focused so intently on the brew that none queried Brett's search amid ancient preserves. Minor graces in dire straits. As they awaited the vintage brewer's operation, a fresh noise entered the dawn harmony. Thunder had mastered unlatching the outbuilding entry. Not forcing it, but manipulating the lock with dentition. He now directed Bella and Scout in a triumphant circuit around the dwelling. "How are they so clever?" Maria lamented, viewing the equines through the pane. "They're estate equines," I addressed my display, saluting them with my beverage. "They absorb from experts." That's when biology summoned. Truly. The waste system, serviced pre-strategic exit, but I'd mentioned was erratic lately, opted to overflow. Minimally, sufficient to render the lower lavatory unusable and generate an aroma sending all to the veranda where Diablo awaited. The male had evidently claimed the veranda as fresh domain. He'd established on the swing and defended with nightly fervor. Connor attempted negotiation. "You can't negotiate with poultry." Diablo soared with extended wings and ready claws. Connor's withdrawal set velocity benchmarks. "We require assistance," Scott admitted ultimately, extracting his device for another attempt at contacting me. This instance, I responded promptly, tone merry as holiday morn. "Hi, dear, how's the estate?" "Mom, return now. All is collapsing." "Oh no, what's amiss?" He enumerated the calamities, tone escalating in urgency per item. I emitted suitable worried sounds while Ruth recorded for memory. My award-deserving portrayal of worried parent. "Well, I stated when he exhausted breath, Tom and Miguel return Monday. They'll handle it." Meanwhile, a guidebook in the outbuilding covers all mechanisms and setups. Your dad documented everything. This held truth. Adam had detailed all meticulously. The tome spanned 300 pages, sealed, and presently stored in the upper level beneath roughly 500 stacks. Success finding it. Monday? Mom, impossible. Oh, the specialist summoning. For my joint issues, recall. Must depart. I disconnected and deactivated again. Through the lenses, I saw Scott hurl his device at the veranda barrier. It rebounded and landed in recent swine waste. The day advanced as chaotic harmony. They attempted cleansing garments, but I'd left solely the natural cleanser needing exact measures and hot fluid, which the guest area lacked reliably. Madison's pale upscale gown emerged mottled ash. Ashley's delicate top disintegrated. They tried settlement for goods, but found Scott's sedan bore a punctured wheel, construction fastener inadvertently near a spot. Sabrina's vehicle housed swine still. Bertha had declared it residence, and the leased transports stayed inexplicably sealed, a puzzle solvable if noting the resourceful bird that collected gleaming items. By midday, guest chamber warmth ascended to set 79. Absent adequate airflow, I'd sealed upper vents. It resembled a steam room. They unsealed panes, admitting insects drawn by creature activity. Freezer holds edibles, Connor declared, extracting what resembled meat. Unbeknownst, it was game from prior season, marked simply protein in Adam's script. They thawed via quick cooker, rendering it tough. The aroma could have qualified as armament. Midday meal became biscuits and unwanted turquoise produce. Outdoors, creatures had formed apparent demonstration. Equines positioned at culinary pain, gazing accusingly. Birds had learned to ascend veranda cover and now topped upper sleeping panes. Swine shifted from premium vehicle to explore the sedan, and one bold youngling infiltrated the motor area. "This is absurd," Patricia repeated, waving a disposable dish. Utterly absurd. Then precipitation arrived. Montana warm season tempests are grand, abrupt, fierce, and complete. This struck at 2 p.m. with booms rattling the structure. Moisture arrived laterally, infiltrating every crevice I'd left unsecured deliberately. Shortly, guest chambers saturated. But the true revelation came upon attempting closure. The aged timber casings, needing repair but conveniently unmentioned, had expanded in moisture. They jammed open. Brett and Connor forced, succeeding merely in shattering one fully, creating an opening the downpour utilized eagerly. "Towels needed," Sabrina yelled. Oh dear, those outdoor cloths wouldn't aid greatly. They employed abrasive covers, garments, any absorbent to halt the flow. Meanwhile, the entry space cover, with minor drip I'd observed but omitted, became cascade. The duty panel I'd sealed floated past like a tiny vessel of accountability. The tempest subsided after 60 minutes, leaving all moist and odorous like sodden fleece. Electricity wavered and failed. My reserve power unit, which would have activated automatically, was oddly fuel-less. I'd instructed Tom to drain it. The manual activator in the outbuilding needed a 16-page guide in a foreign tongue. I'd exchanged manuals months prior as jest, neglecting reversal. Fortuity. As night descended, they clustered in the lounge with illuminators I'd provided. Prank relighting types that reignite post-extinguishing. Observing their confusion over persistent flames surpassed broadcast entertainment. "We might prepare on the cooker," Scott proposed, aiming to rescue the day. The fuel cooker was empty. The wood-fuel version demanded expertise. They proceeded regardless, yielding what could be termed charred all. Even produce was simultaneously scorched and uncooked. Evening meal was chilled preserved legumes again, consumed in flickering prank light while moisture dripped from assorted ceiling points, and Diablo traversed the veranda like avian guard. "I desire home," Sophia uttered softly. It was the initial utterly truthful statement from many. "This is Scott's domain now," Patricia remarked sharply. "His legacy, correct, Scott? This is your desire." Through the heat-sensing lens, powered by cells, naturally, I beheld my offspring's features. He appeared shattered. "Excellent. I merely assumed," he commenced. "You assumed you'd seize Mom's retreat paradise," Sabrina concluded. "Convert it to our leisure spot. Perhaps lease it absent our presence." "You've discussed it endlessly," Madison interjected. "Its value, how to partition it." "Partition it?" "My 80 acres, our vision." Ruth compressed my palm as we viewed. "You all right?" "I'm ideal," I affirmed, and believed it. At 9 p.m., wonder occurred. Clouds dispersed, unveiling a breathtaking Montana nocturnal vista. Myriad stars, the galactic band fully visible. Through the lenses, I saw them step onto the veranda. Diablo had retired to his shelter at last. For a moment, silence as they gazed upward at a sight most had never witnessed, untainted by metropolitan glare. Connor identified a planet. Ashley spotted her initial meteor. Even Patricia appeared humbled by the splendor. "It's gorgeous," Sabrina conceded softly. "Dad adored this," Scott stated abruptly. "He'd send me sky images from here. I always erased them unseen." The admission lingered like an additional star. "He constructed this for Mom," he proceeded. "Each post, each planting area. Even ill, he labored here. And I deemed it squandered funds." "You expressed harsher," Patricia recalled. "Naturally." The instant fractured. They retreated to damp, shadowy chambers. Through night vision lenses, I observed their restless turns on uncomfortable mattresses. Overwarm, then chilled. Abrasive covers offering scant solace. At 12, wild canines howled, distant enough for safety, near for clarity via shattered pane. Then nocturnal birds chimed. Then Bertha, still in the vehicle, located the signal. Sunday, a final day. Tomorrow they'd fracture wholly, and I'd reclaim my realm. But this night, briefly under those stars, Scott had recalled his dad. That exceeded my expectations, perhaps his merit. "Prepared for the climax?" Ruth queried, displaying the climate prediction on her device. I viewed Sunday's forecast. 102 degrees, clear skies, gust alert. "Oh yes," I replied, toasting the display where my offspring sat shadowed, finally comprehending his attempted theft. "Let's conclude appropriately. The finest?" I hadn't activated my hidden asset yet. Tomorrow, they'd encounter the woolly beasts. Sunday broke with what weather authorities later termed a rare seasonal heat surge. By 6 a.m., already 85. By 7 a.m., as the fatigued group staggered into the culinary space post another foul serenade, nearing 90. "Why so warm?" Ashley groaned, waving a tissue sheet. "Because, dear, I deactivated the main cooling pre-departure, leaving solely insufficient pain units in guest areas, needing power they lacked." The manual override for power was in Adam's workshop behind roughly 700 pounds of timber stacked for cold season tasks. From my portable at the hotel, where Ruth and I savored poached eggs and ideal climate control, I watched them realize the cooler, unpowered over 12 hours, had turned into a container of potential illness. The stench upon Connor's opening sent all fleeing to the veranda where the woolly beasts awaited. Now, regarding the woolly beasts. They weren't mine. They pertained to the distant neighbors. But woolly beasts, akin to adolescents, roam upon discovering barrier weaknesses. And someone, certainly not Tom per my directive, might have forged a handy route from their southern fields straight to my front area. 3 woolly beasts, Napoleon the projector, Julius the vocalist, and Cleopatra with boundary concerns. Brett first locked gazes with Napoleon. Grave error. The beast's auditors flattened, neck curved, and with marksman's precision, he ejected a verdant grassy stream directly at Brett's visage. Brett's cry blended harmoniously with Julius's reply, a tone midway between corroded hinge and infernal chuckle. Cleopatra, unwilling to lag, deemed Madison's locks resembled fodder and attempted consumption. "What are these creatures?" Sabrina shrieked, dodging Julius's sniff at her underarm. "Protective woolly beasts," I informed my display. "Highly efficient." The aspect of woolly beasts, they're inquisitive. Profoundly inquisitive. And once deeming you intriguing, they trail everywhere. The group retreated indoors, but the beasts merely positioned at panes, staring with vast orbs, sporadically voicing exclusion discontent. Inside, warmth climbed. Absent power, absent cooling, with dawn rays turning panes into amplifiers, the dwelling became furnace. They opened all panes, admitting insects that had proliferated thanks to uncleaned creature waste. "Ice required," Scott stated, perspiring through his final clean garment. The frozen producer needed power, naturally. Reserve frozen and outbuilding cooler had liquefied post-outage. Nearest merchant 43 minutes distant, vehicle issues persistent. That's when Connor located the pump. "Manual pump exists," he proclaimed victoriously. "We can obtain chill fluid at least." Connor ignored the pump's years of neglect. It functioned technically, but fluid emerged tinted rust and sulfur-scented. They attempted regardless. Maria retched. Even woolly beasts retreated from the odor. By midday, warmth hit 102. The metallic cover clicked with expansion. Equine's located souls shade beneath culinary pain, adding their unique fragrance therapy. Birds had surrendered, reclining in dust depressions, gaping beaks panting. "I'm contacting emergency," Patricia declared, elevating her device. "And report what?" Scott barked, composure gone. "That it's warm and woolly beasts exist." That's when Diablo, heat aggravated and enraged, realized flight sufficient for entry via shattered sleeping pane. Upper level sounds mixed avian fury and human panic. Derek or David descended with arm marks and Diablo's plumage in grasp. "It assaulted me." The bird assaulted me during rest. Technically, no rest occurred, but drama appreciated. Afternoon brought gusts. Montana gusts are serious. 40 miles hourly, carrying half the surface soil. Shattered pane became entry for dust, fodder, and farm debris. Shortly, all coated in fine rural legacy. "We're departing," Sabrina stated repeatedly. "We'll trek to settlement if necessary." "It's 105, Scott noted. "Over 40 miles. We'd perish." "We're perishing here." That's when vehicles sounded. 3 haulers rumbling the path. Tunes blasting, signals blaring. Relief force. No, the adjacent landowners arriving for the weekly gathering I'd omitted mentioning I'd committed to host weeks prior. 15 individuals exited the haulers bearing baked dishes, beverage chillers, and a singing device. Large landowner, all 300 pounds, enveloped Scott in embrace. "You must be Gail's offspring." She informed us thoroughly. "Said you craved real estate living." No concerns. We supplied all. Even hauled the automated steer in the hauler. "Your parents said you desired riding lessons." Ruth and I nearly gagged on beverages, viewing Scott's expression as they unloaded an genuine automated steer and positioned it in the front area. The woolly beasts were captivated. Napoleon promptly projected on it. The visitors, wonderful folks, ignored the outage. Their haulers held power sources. They ignored the heat. They were landowners. They even ignored the woolly beasts, though the large landowner's spouse inquired, "These recent?" Don't recall Gail noting woolly beasts. What ensued was 3 hours of compelled interaction. The visitors were charming individuals assuming Scott's group shared rural enthusiasm. They sought details on property intentions, preferred livestock types, views on cycling pastures. Madison clarified her Florida origins. The large landowner's offspring, even bulkier, interpreted as cue to recount every Floridian acquaintance, a tale spanning 45 minutes with images. Brett was compelled onto the automated steer. He endured 1.3 seconds pre-launch into fodder stack the woolly beasts utilized as relief spot. The visitors applauded as if Olympic triumph. Sabrina sealed herself in lavatory for tears, but the spouse pursued, presuming female discussion on rural spouse existence. Via lavatory lens, I overheard detailed guidance on livestock birthing, limb ailment treatment, and optimal male livestock alteration. The singing commenced at 4 p.m. The large landowner demanded universal participation. Connor's performance of a classic melody while Napoleon vocalized along was especially notable. Patricia, compelled to perform a loyalty tune, appeared in agony. But the instant shattering Scott utterly came when the offspring inquired, "When's your parent returning?" She vowed to display her fresh preservation setup. "She's in Denver," Scott replied weakly. "Health matters." "Health matters?" The large landowner boomed. "That lady's fitter than my champion steer. Saw her last week tossing fodder stacks like cushions." "What health matters?" Scott couldn't respond because Bertha, guarding her young, deemed the automated steer threat. A 400-pound female charging an automated steer while 15 landowners scattered and woolly beasts vocalized encouragement. Nature films should document such. The visitors departed at dusk, but not pre-securing vows for weekly repeats and leaving the automated steer since you require training. The group sat amid yard debris as night fell. No power, no safe edibles, coated in dust, perspiration, and assorted creature secretions. Warmth had dropped to mere 95. I want mom, Scott uttered softly. It was so juvenile that even Sabrina regarded him with near compassion. I want my mom, he reiterated. I must apologize. Through the lens, I saw him extract my crumpled, marked message, rereading aloud. Upon reaching Adam's daily efforts amid treatments, his tone faltered. We should depart, Patricia stated. But for once, lacking malice. With what transport? Scott chortled bitterly. We're trapped as mom intended. Perhaps, Connor stated cautiously. She intended comprehension. Comprehend what? That rural living is torment. That it's labor, Connor said. Intense labor daily. And she performs it solo now. Silence extended. Even woolly beasts quieted, outlined against dimming sky. I advised her to dispose, Scott confessed. Day post Dad's service at the gathering. I drew her aside and said she was too aged for solo management. Said Dad was self-centered for desiring death here. Even Patricia flinched. I had a purchaser arranged, a building firm. They'd offer triple her purchase. You attempted vending your parents' residence? Ashley queried, appalled. I believed assistance. You believed wealth, Sabrina amended. The reality lingered like swirling dust. That's when I deemed it time. I contacted Tom, who'd remained local. Stage 3, I stated plainly. Gladly, Mrs. M, he answered. 30 minutes later, as the group sat in dusty, subdued quiet, beams appeared on the path. Tom's hauler towing a carrier with 3 familiar equines. Good evening, people, Tom greeted, lifting his cap. Received a summons from Mrs. Morrison. Said you might require aid returning these equines properly. It took moments for comprehension. The equines in the carrier were Scout, Bella, and Thunder. Meaning the terrorizing ones whose equines are indoors? Scott inquired faintly. Oh, those are the neighboring rescue equines. Filming a feature on creature smarts. Mrs. Morrison offered her spot for the weekend. Didn't she note? Trained for door opening, lock manipulation, even human facilities if required. Though evidently not mastered the latter. Scott's expression justified every cent of the hotel's top suite. The woolly beasts are ours, though, Tom proceeded cheerfully. Well, the distant neighbors. They'll desire return eventually. Maybe. They're somewhat troublesome, frankly. As if concurring, Napoleon projected once more, striking the automated steer accurately. Mrs. Morrison returns tomorrow dawn, Tom stated, guiding rescue equines to carrier. Said hope you relished your true rural encounter. Oh, and Powers phone-controlled. She'll reactivate upon return. He departed, leaving them shadowed, literally and metaphorically, with solely the automated steer, woolly beasts, and fractured presumptions for companionship. I turned to Ruth, recording all for memory. One more dawn, I said. One more foul call, then home. Think they absorbed anything? I gazed at my offspring on display, gripping my message amid entitlement wreckage. We're discovering. Monday dawn came with what I'd call heavenly humor. At precisely 3 a.m., the automated steer, unmentioned by the large landowner as timed, activated abruptly, with illumination and tunes at peak volume. The selected melody, a cautionary about offspring vocations. Through heat-sensing lenses, I saw Scott surge from makeshift bedding on lounge floor. Guest areas uninhabitable from dust and odd odors. He staggered outdoors in undergarments to discover Napoleon astride the automated steer. Truly, the woolly beast had mastered mounting and perched like furry ruler while the device swayed gently. Julius and Cleopatra stood adjacent, vocalizing approval. This isn't actual, Scott addressed Void. Can't be actual. Oh, but indeed. By unplugging time, the cord entangled Napoleon, uninterested in descent. The remainder had assembled on veranda, resembling apocalyptic survivors. Locks tangled, attire filthy, gazes vacant from insomnia. Is that woolly beast operating the steer? Sabrina whispered brokenly. Surprises cease, Patricia replied. She'd matured a decade in 3 days. The foul sound activated at 4:30, but none reacted. They were fractured. Totally, completely fractured. As dawn revealed full weekend devastation, the swine-ruined vehicle, muck-filled basin, dwelling resembling storm passage, they sat on veranda steps silently. Even Diablo sensed defeat, strolling past Sans assault. That's my arrival. Timed ideally. Arriving an immaculate off-roader as morning rays struck peaks. Ruth styled my appearance at hotel. I donned favored denim, Adam's cherished checkered top, and azure adornments he'd gifted for our final milestone. I appeared precisely as a female commanding her realm. The group observed my exit like spectral or vengeful entity. Morning, I greeted merrily, seizing overnight sack. How was your true royal encounter? Silence. They stared. I passed the automated steer Napoleon had descended and now consumed blooms, stepped over assorted deposits, entered dwelling. Through entry, they heard my hum as I activated the superior brew device hidden in upper storage. Mom. Scott managed, trailing indoors. Yes, dear. You were in Denver. The Four Seasons boasts superb wellness. Aware of their cocoa envelopment? Quite soothing. I extracted device and with taps, power restored. Cooling hummed. Cooler purred familiarly. You controlled it throughout, he stated. Not inquiry. I control much, Scott. This is my residence. The others crept indoors, viewing our exchange like performance. The equines weren't yours. Indeed, Scout, Bella, and Thunder behave superiorly. They're in outbuilding appropriately. Woolly beasts depart soon, though Napoleon favors that steer. You orchestrate it all. I faced him squarely, channeling accumulated frustration, letdown, and pain from prior 2 years. No, Scott, you orchestrate it all. You orchestrated bullying me away. Orchestrated seizing my residence. Orchestrated converting our vision, your dad's and mine, into rental venture. You even examined my accounts and consulted builders on partitioning grounds. Sabrina inhaled sharply, unaware of that detail. How did you? The builder rep is wed to Ruth's sibling. Tight community, yes? He was keen learning you negotiated sale of unowned property. I aimed to assist. No. My tone could have iced Inferno. You aimed to claim your legacy as termed. Tell me, Scott, what did you gain from your dad? Silence. I'll inform. He granted a mom loving despite avarice. Granted recollections you dismissed. Granted principles you spurned. And granted chance to become superior man than selected. I extracted paper from sack. This is property title. As visible, transferred to protected trust. You're excluded. Patricia emitted choked noise. Scott blanched. You excluded him, Sabrina murmured. I granted precisely what he granted me. Zero esteem, zero thought, zero right to my creation. I addressed assembly. You arrived unbidden, treating my residence as lodging and me as staff. You shared online about claiming a estate pre my demise. You griped every facet of our chosen existence while scheming profit from our toil. That's not, Scott began. I possess recordings, Scott. Every discussion plotting my frailty. Every chat with Sabrina on managing me. The collective messages mocking the estate and labeling me obstinate elder pretending agriculturist. I displayed tablet with captures, their damning, cruel terms. But here's unrecorded, I proceeded. Your dad 2 weeks pre-passing, on that veranda, extracting vow against your destruction of this. He foresaw your evolution. It shattered him, but he foresaw. Scott collapsed into seat. The burden, shame, insight, loss impacted finally. I do cherish you, Scott, I softened. Always will, but cherishing doesn't equal tolerating disdain. Doesn't equal yielding my visions for your covetousness. And surely doesn't equal permitting commodification of our refuge. What now? Patricia queried, still misunderstanding. You depart. Tom arrives soon with haul vehicle for transports. Lease firm notified of today's return. Yes, keys located. Birds stashed in outbuilding beams. Remarkable beings, birds. But Sabrina commenced, but nothing. This is my residence. You're unwelcome. Silence thundered. Finally, Connor spoke. We owe apology, Mrs. Morrison. Sincere. We're regretful, Ashley added softly. This spot it's truly lovely. We couldn't perceive. I nodded recognition, but silent. Apologies were terms. Adam always advised observing actions, not statements. 3 hours for packing and minimal damage cleanup. I oversaw from veranda with brew, occasionally offering tips. Swine residue needs specific solvent. Beneath basin. Woolly projection is corrosive. Scrub firmer. That's not soil in basin strainer. Tom arrived with haul and team. Transports retrieved, minimally cleansed, operable. Woolly beasts loaded into carrier, though Napoleon expressed sentiments by projecting at Scott farewell. As departure prepared, Scott neared finally. Mom, I know, I said. Regretful. You'll improve. Desire another opportunity, yes. He nodded wretchedly. Acquire it, I stated plainly. Not via terms, not grand acts, via duration and true shift. Your dad constructed this 2 years manually amid disease. You couldn't endure weekend sans gripe when matching his devotion to beyond self. Contact me. How'll I recognize when? You'll recognize. He embraced awkwardly, briefly. First genuine sentiment weekend. They departed in damaged transports and egos. Sabrina avoided rear glance. Patricia already communicated, likely complaining to associates. Florida kin held unbelievable tale. But Scott glanced rear once, and in that, perhaps insight or mere remorse. Duration would reveal. Tom aided releasing actual equines to meadow. Scout promptly rolled in favored dust. Bella hastened to fruit tree. Thunder positioned at barrier, overseeing domain contentedly. Intense weekend, Mrs. M., Tom stated, smiling. Worth every hotel cent and your extra pay. Mr. Morrison would have adored. He would, I concurred, though likely actual odor beasts over mere scent. We chuckled, standing in afternoon rays, amid managed rural disorder. That dusk, I sat on veranda with Adam's preferred spirit, viewing dusk tint peaks violet and amber. Estate quiet save usual, equines calling, birds settling, distant livestock sounds. Device vibrated. Scott's message. Automated steer remains in yard. I responded. View as tribute to genuineness. Then deactivated, toasted Adam's spirit, savored flawless quiet of defended vision and reclaimed residence. Sign up and share in remarks how you'd score my handling of unbidden visitors. Recall, this is my tale, my estate, my guidelines. The birds would sound tomorrow at 4:30, but tomorrow I'd solo here, and that's precise. 3 weeks elapsed in serene blessing. Estate resumed cadence. Dawn brew with rising sun. Afternoons garden tending Adam and I established. Evenings with equines. Automated steer stayed front, boundary monument. I'd planted blooms around. Neighbors deemed me eccentric. I'd never been clearer. Then correspondence arrived. Not digital, but handwritten in Scott's precise letters. Identical style I'd instructed at 7 at Chicago dining surface, tongue protruding focused. Dear Mom, I've volunteered at Colorado Veteran Estate aiding injured soldiers via equine care. Recall Dad noting once. I've cleared pens, nourished equines, learned silence and attention. Yesterday, veteran Marcus, lost limbs in conflict, said I resembled his offspring. Untested hands, rigid mind, he noted. Then instructed bridling equine named Warrior, trusting only respectful approaches. Took 6 hours. I wept twice. Warrior permitted proximity when I ceased proving and merely sat in pen, silent, awaiting space permission. I think I grasp now. Not requesting anything. Just informing. Scott P.S. Sabrina sought separation. Kept vehicle. Swine caused 30,000 interior harm. I perused thrice at identical dining where I'd taught writing. Growth or ploy. Duration would reveal. Adam always said renewal marathon, not dash. 2 days on, Ruth rang. Check social site. I seldom used, but access to find unexpected. Scott posted footage, rough, evidently unapproved. Him in stable, mud and waist covered, grappling oversized fodder stack. Fell twice, struck once, not severely. Upon success in pen, equines scattered immediately. Caption: 3rd week at Veteran Healing Estate. Finally grasp Mom's amusement at my ranching claim mere feeding. This Thor teaches humility. Excels. Mom, if viewing, sorry all. Comments varied. Sabrina wrote, divorce reason. Patricia added, degree waste. But others, veterans grateful aid. Director lauding effort. Marcus noting, Urban lads progressing gradually. I withheld response. Not yet. Month later, another letter. Mom, today veteran spouse shared losing farm during deployment. 20 years equine raising. Sold all, including home-birthed male. She wept describing dawn over meadows. I aided grant paperwork for restart. My strength, documents, finances, structures. But now comprehend numeral meanings. Each entry a vision. Dawn brew viewing equines, dusk coyote listening. I ponder dad daily now. His final ranch morning appearance. Even treatment ravaging, beaming at peaks, not mere land. Love materialized. I was foolish, Mom. Profoundly foolish. Still no requests. Scott Tom visited afternoon for barrier fix. Heard your offspring's Colorado, he mentioned casually. Word spreads. Cousin works veteran spot. Says urban guy works hardest volunteers. No gripes, no quit. Arrives 4 a.m. daily unprompted. Also heard donated full last deal earnings to program. 6 digits. That was fresh. I maintained neutral, but internally shifted. 3 months on, contacts began. Not Scott, others. Director thanking for offspring grasping service. Marcus ringing. Scott personally bought care equine for autistic youth. Veteran's widow. Scott saved family farm foreclosure. Free. Then Ruth arrived with portable. See this. Scott's estate site entry. True rural living, urban offsprings lesson. Detailed weekend honestly, harshly, amusingly. Owned entitlement, disdain, covetousness. But conclusion moved me. My parent protected vision with equines, woolly beasts, yard-standing, automated steer. Taught authenticity isn't photo sunsets and jar styles. It's 4 a.m. minus 20 feedings. Holding dying spouse's hand viewing final dawn over blood for land. Choosing labor over funds daily. I sought theft, reducing life work to gain. She granted desired authenticity, broke me best way. If reading, Mom, I comprehend now. Not completely, perhaps never, but sufficient knowing you and Dad's creation unbought, unsold, uninherited. Must earn, one dawn at time. P.S. Napoleon Magnificent. Inform visitors. I chuckled. Then wept. Then acted 6 months absent. I rang my offspring. Hello. Tone hesitant. Fearful. Visitors got new woolly. Named Bonaparte. Worse than Napoleon. Silence. Then shaky but true laugh. Heaven help. Tom says good Colorado work. Attempting. It's Mom, these veterans, their sacrifices find peace with equines. Like Dad's final months on estate. That peace merits all. Yes, I affirmed, it does. I've pondered, he proceeded cautiously, about holiday meal, not requesting estate visit. Haven't earned. But perhaps settlement dining, just us. I could travel from Colorado. I pondered. Settlement eatery offers fair poultry meal. Is that agreement? It's potential. Continue labor. Continue absorbing. Inquire November. Reasonable Mom. Yes. I cherish you. Should have begun there. Should have begun many things, Scott. But delayed surpasses absent. Post-call, I approached pasture where thunder awaited. He called softly, pressing massive head to my torso. I rubbed favored ear spot, pondering fresh starts and renewal path. 2 weeks on, another shock. Colorado marked parcel. Inside photo collection, bound professionally, curated carefully. Cover, Adam Morrison, landowner's heritage. Scott gathered unseen hundreds. Adam at farming meetings, sustainable talks, colleague shots teaching youth, guiding, leading. Feed store, eatery, health clinic images, Adam community embedded, esteemed, cherished, recalled. Final page photo I'd captured, forgotten. Adam and Scott 5 years prior fence mending. Both chuckling. Scott misholding tool. Adam softly adjusting. Below, he attempted instruction. I declined learning. My loss, not his. Thanks protecting his love. You and estate. I didn't merit legacy. Love uninherited anyway. Earned. I sat veranda, collection lap held as sun descended behind peaks. Diablo strutted past, pausing suspicious gaze before patrol continuation. Automated steer stood quiet garden, encircled by blooms thriving amid base disorder. Device ring. Ruth. You all right, dear? Pondering holiday, I confessed about potential yes to meal. Adam would desire. Adam desired much. Not all wise, most kind. She correct. Adam's prime strength weakness, unyielding belief in change capacity. I'll ponder, I said. October came with premature flakes, coating estate pristine. Equines grew thick coats. I prepped outbuilding for chill, laboring solo but not isolated. Estate never isolated. Excessive vitality, purpose, beauty. Then Scott's third correspondence. Mom, today 15-year boy arrived estate, furious all. Dad perished conflict win 3. Mom rude poorly. Reminded self. Anger inward or outward, destructive. Taught pen clearing. Gripped entire. Called stupid, useless below. I continued labor beside, recalling your weekend sameness, never biting, consistently showing needed. Third hour, inquired why volunteer wealthy. Vehicle betrayed. Told about you, dad, estate, late learning mundane work love active. Dignity not above tasks, but purposeful all. He ceased griping. Worked quiet post. Good quiet like you dad shared. End, asked return tomorrow. Yes, if promise pre-foul crow. What time? 4:30. Said mom drop 4. Mom, think grasp why not just tell. Lessons unteachable, only learnable. Unlearnable sans work. Thanks forcing work. Your offspring, still absorbing. Scott I rang that night. Holiday I stated sans intro. But not eatery. Here at estate. Silence, then faint. Truly? Arrive prior day. Assist on nourishing. Sleep guest chamber, chill one with abrasive covers. Aid cooking using Diablo's flock produce. Gripe once, meet Bonaparte. Mom, thank you. Won't disappoint. You have. Not point now. Point who choose become next. Choose better. Will observe. November rushed. Day pre-holiday, I watched from pain as Scott's sedan navigated path. Parked, sat minute gathering resolve, emerged. Altered, slimmer, tougher, rough hands visible afar. Moved differently. Less arrogance, more intent. When thunder called from meadow, Scott approached barrier directly, offering palm for scent. Thunder, superb character judge, pondered long, then pressed nose to Scott's hand. Hi, Mom, Scott said as I stepped veranda. You're delayed. Nourishing began 10 minutes. He grinned, Dad's grin, unseen years. Then better start. We labored alongside in agreeable quiet, clearing pens, distributing fodder, checking hydration. He knew now, moved efficiently if not fluidly. When Diablo challenged at shelter, Scott held position, waiting till Rooster deemed unworthy effort. That dusk, prepping produce for next meal, Scott inquired, really 4 seasons entire? Top lodging. Ruth and I had wellness twice daily. He laughed. Truly. That's brilliant. Malevolent brilliant. But brilliant. Your dad would have relished. He always said too lenient you. He right? Yes, usually. We conversed meal through, not past, present. Veterans he aided. Equines he read. Youth arriving 4 a.m. daily, healing via labor and equine insight. I'm dating, he mentioned casually. Animal doctor. Volunteers estate. Raised cattle Wyoming. And she calls me tender but redeemable. Wise lady. She desires meat. Perhaps winter holiday. Perhaps. Survive holiday first. That night, heard him rise multiple, checking equines like Adam. Instinct or upbringing, finally proper. Holiday dawn crisp, clear. Labored dawn nourishing, then indoors cooking. Scott mishandled poultry, forgot alerts, charred breads, but endeavored. Truly sans gripe or justification. As seeded for consumption, overdone poultry, clumpy sauce, slightly burned produce, he elevated cider vessel. To Dad, he said, to you, to estate, to undeserved fresh starts, but thankful. To absorbing, I responded. However prolonged. We consumed peaceful quiet, viewing peaks through pain. Automated steer garden standing, now holiday illuminated, why not? Equines grazed calmly. Diablo unusually silent. Mom, Scott abrupt. Must tell something. I tensed. We just birthed offspring roadside? We did, Sarah affirmed. Baby book entry. Birth location, truck model, marker 47. Hospital, all verified healthy. I held grandson initially. He gripped fingers strongly as prepping future labor. 2 days on, home to estate. Creatures seemed aware significance. Even Diablo subdued, gentle pecking. Thunder called softly passing, welcome newest herd. First night, found Scott nursery 2 a.m. Not cry-induced, but reading Adam's log. March 15th, Scott read softly. Aided calf birth today. Tough, but pair survived. Scott rang city. Big close. Happy sound. Wish calf view. Life start views perspective. Someday perhaps grasp. He would have adored, I doorway said. Grandchild estate. Wasted much time, Mom. No, long route home. Distinct. Christmas week later. First complete family years. Sarah's kin Wyoming arrived. Rural folk grasping rhythm. Large landowners dropped handmade sway equine. Assistants brought kin for meal and Bonaparte. Somehow Bonaparte indoors. How continual? Scott demanded, herding woolly from holiday tree. He's Bonaparte, I said, explaining all. Which did. Baby watched chaos from seat. Eyes wide, curious. 6 days, already intrigued rural madness. Sarah's dad shared childhood tales, Bonaparte present examining. Mother said barn or truck births blessed animal understanding. Folklore, but often true. Post-meal, all gathered, Bonaparte veranda exiled, I toasted. Adam said estate not land or creatures. About family born, chosen. This year, chose become family he believed possible. Looked Scott holding son, Sarah leaning. Took steers, rescue equines, vindictive fowl, but home. To Dad, Scott said, elevating. To Adam. To Adam, echoed. Outside, gentle flakes. Window view, automated steer holiday illuminated, Santa capped. Someone added plaque, monument summer change. That night, post all home or rested, barn found with thunder. He aged slower, still grand. We succeeded, friend, I told. Survived. Thrived. Brought home. He called softly, head to shoulder. Distant, wild canine howled. Nocturnal bird replied. Estate nighttime chorus, same yet altered. Now sang 4 generations, past, now, future. Thought Adam, his words now. Likely practical, check heaters. Or, baby needs warmer garb. But beneath, pride, joy, dream satisfaction not preserved, expanded. Device buzzed. Scott text. Baby first on tomorrow. Join? Always responded. And would. Every dawn, feeding, minor disaster, miracle. Family does. Ranchers do. Love in muck boots, buckets 4 a.m. automated steer silent snow, purpose done. Forced genuineness on needy. Now rest, reminder creative fairness best entitlement response, woolly projection side. 5 years, little Adam riding thunder successor. 10 years, battling Diablo offspring eggs. 20 years, who knows? Perhaps city, chase non-rural dreams. Okay, knowing home meaning. Not legacy, investment, not possession, guardianship, not simplicity, value. But tonight, quiet December dusk, flakes falling, family safe one roof, had Adam I dreamed. Different planned, harder imagined, better hoped. Tomorrow challenges, equines feed, payments, baby raise, estate run, but also peak dawn, sun brew, Sarah laugh, grandchild smile, continued Bonaparte pen absence suspicious. Walked house, patting snow-covered steer head. Thanks, whispered to it, night, Adam memory. Universe conspiring, chaos teach son what comfort couldn't. Inside, warmth, light, family waited. Outside, estate eternal vigil, demanding all, returning more. My genuine life, hard-earned, fiercely guarded, finally shared fully. Perfect. If enjoyed story, please like, sign up, share comments what 0 to 10 score give my unbidden guest handling, and recall, sometimes finest legacy not left behind, but taught through.